Thousands of years ago, humans looked up at the night sky with wonder. For early humans, the sky above wasn't just a pretty background to their lives. It was this profound, daily mystery just begging to be solved. Okay, let's dive into this and explore the fascinating origins of something almost every single one of us has heard of, the Zodiac.
I want you to really try and picture this for a second. What did the night sky actually look like before electricity? Today, if you live in a city or town, the light pollution washes out pretty much everything except the brightest stars. But back then, humanity lived in a world completely devoid of artificial light. When the sun went down, the darkness was absolute. And because of that, without electricity, the stars absolutely filled the sky every single night. Imagine stepping outside and seeing a canvas packed so densely with light it felt like you could just reach out and touch it. It was impossible to ignore. It was basically their television, their calendar, and their biggest mystery all rolled into one.
And, as they spent countless nights under that brilliant, unpolluted sky, people noticed something strange. The sky wasn't just a chaotic scattering of bright dots. There was actually an underlying order to the whole thing. The crucial realization was that the stars moved in predictable, repeating patterns. Night after night, year after year, certain groups of stars always appeared in the exact same formations. This was a monumental observation. Early humans realized that even though life on the ground was super unpredictable, the weather, the hunting, the seasons, the sky above them operated with an incredible mechanical reliability.
But the stars were really just one piece of this giant cosmic puzzle. Ancient people made an even more surprising observation. The sun seemed to move through the exact same part of the sky every single year. Against the backdrop of those fixed star patterns, the sun followed a very specific, predictable path. And this brilliantly illustrates why ancient civilizations became so highly motivated to understand these repeating patterns. They realized that the sky was essentially a massive, moving machine, and they desperately wanted to decode it.
That profound desire to decode the universe brings us to a massive turning point in human history. Around 4,000 years ago, the Babylonians carefully observed the movement of the sun, the moon, and the planets. They didn't just casually gaze at the stars, they actually took this huge leap forward by recording detailed data. They meticulously tracked how these brighter, moving objects traveled against that fixed background of the stars. Honestly, this was truly one of humanity's earliest and most impressive scientific endeavors.
To make the vast, overwhelming sky easier to study, they followed a super logical process. First, they mapped out that predictable path of the sun. Then, they divided the path of the sun into 12 sections. Finally, each section was named after a nearby constellation that happened to be sitting right there in that specific part of the sky. By creating these 12 distinct named sections, these became the very first zodiac signs. It was an absolute masterclass in taking insanely complex astronomical information and making it manageable.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is figuring out why they went through all this effort in the first place. It definitely wasn't just some abstract hobby. The Babylonians believed the positions of the stars and planets could help explain seasons, predict important events, and guide agriculture. They viewed this heavenly calendar as absolutely vital for their everyday survival. Knowing exactly when to plant and when to harvest based on where the sun was in the zodiac, that literally meant the difference between feasting and starving. The sky was basically their ultimate survival guide.
While a system that incredibly useful doesn't stay a secret for long, as empires rose and fell and knowledge was shared, later the ancient Greeks adopted the Babylonian system. This is such a cool cultural shift. This highly useful astronomical framework, the mathematical division of the sky into those 12 sections based on the sun's path, was passed directly from ancient Babylonians to ancient Greek scholars. It was pure science, transcending borders and generations.
And it is right here with the ancient Greeks that the zodiac starts to look incredibly familiar to us. Greek scholars gave many of the constellations the specific names we still use today, such as Aries, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. Whenever you hear these names today, whether you're reading a magazine or just chatting with friends, you are literally hearing the direct legacy of ancient Greek scholars categorizing the night sky. It's pretty mind-blowing to think that these specific names have survived entirely intact across thousands of years of history.
But, the Greeks didn't just translate the Babylonian names and stop there. They did what they did best. They told incredible stories. They also connected many of these constellations to famous myths and legendary heroes. For example, the constellation Leo wasn't just a regular lion anymore. It became the legendary Nemean lion defeated by Hercules. By tying these previously scientific star patterns to their own epic legends, they infused the zodiac with rich, dramatic storytelling. Every time they looked up, they were seeing their favorite myths and legendary heroes playing out right there in the stars.
Let's move to and see how this all builds together. Over the centuries, we see this incredible historical journey. It starts 4,000 years ago when the Babylonians invent those foundational 12 sections. Centuries later, the ancient Greeks adopt the system and brilliantly add their cultural myths. And then, following those centuries, as the Roman Empire spread, the zodiac became popular across Europe and many other regions. It was the ancient equivalent of an idea going completely viral, firmly cementing these sky patterns right into the cultural foundation of Western civilization.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder. When we look at our zodiac signs today, are we simply continuing a 4,000-year-old human tradition of finding meaning in the dark? Whether you check your horoscope daily or just know your sign for fun, you're actually participating in a direct, unbroken chain of human curiosity. A chain that stretches all the way back to people standing in the pitch black, looking up at a sky full of stars without electricity, desperately wanting to understand the repeating patterns of the universe. It really makes you look at the night sky just a little bit differently, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I can't wait to dive into our next fascinating topic with you.